This video highlight is brought to you by our Wall of Famers who make it possible for me to carve time out of my very busy real-life schedule and do what it is that I love to do. Be with you. Thank you. A fun night here on Star Citizen After Dark on Twitch. Get your butts on over here. If you're watching on YouTube, we're talking about a lot tonight. We're having a lot of fun here. Get over on Twitch every Thursday night starting at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight, we are going to be watching SpaceTomato talk about Star Citizen. Star Citizen is not just about the next update. There's more gameplay coming. Let us do this. Hugh Freeze is saying hi. Hugh Freeze is a gentleman. We all know this. Hugh Freeze, thank you.
Hugh is an upstanding gentleman.
He is. I can actually vouch for Hugh because he is a gentleman. He gifted me Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. He also gifted 58 community sub gifts like a boss last week. Thank you, Hugh. I love you, bro. Now let's watch SpaceTomato talk about Star Citizen.
Star Citizen's development can feel all over the place. It kinda is, but it has typically aimed to deliver some form of update every 3 months. But gamers have short memories, and we struggle with reading at times. So with every update that comes out and whatever content, feature, or ship that's highlighted in that update, you'll hear that the game is turning entirely towards whatever that update is about. PvP, Care Bears, streamers, solo players, orgs. You might sometimes think a given update is the last one we'll get, but the fact is we have many, many more updates ahead of us.
He's right.
And many in our past that all focused on different parts of the game. With the arrival of Alpha 4.2 and the associated Stormbreaker activity, many players feel certain their gameplay will not see the light of day in the way they imagined.
And they're wrong. Those people that think that are wrong, and they're clickbaiting the shit out of you, and they know better. They are wrong. They are wrong on purpose so that they can clickbait you and monetize the shit out of you. Guys, open up your eyes. Not our audience. Our audience understands what the fuck is going on. But people that like continually focus on the Chicken Little sky is falling narrative and every little minutia, like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. They're literally doing it to monetize you. Long term, we know the goals. We know where we're going. We get it. There's a lot of turbulence between where we're at now to where we need to go.
From plenty of other communications and the arrival of 4.2.1's global event, there are also plenty of signs that more diverse gameplay is on the way.
Hugh brings up a great point. He says, my problem with gameplay coming is when the gameplay also goes and then never comes back, which there are examples of, and I agree, Hugh. Please no more FOMO event activities. Only have stuff that can be done again or repeats. Focusing on stability, like Benoit Bessager talked about at the very beginning of this year, would be very welcomed. I would love to see them come in and talk about server tech and how far we are and the issues, and at least see that once every quarter, like 4 times a year, talking about the server tech because it is that important. It is the pinnacle. It is the #1 issue for me.
Today we're going to look at how the features you care about are likely still being worked on in the background, and why ultimately it's not just about the next update. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. It's easy enough to come across players disheartened by any number of additions. Oftentimes, features are implemented haphazardly or with errors, and sometimes the design of the current game directly clashes with what appears to be a great activity on paper. But look no further than the statement recently about taking a step towards exploration, but you'll find countless jokes and complaints that exploration is going to be about going to predefined locations to shoot people, even though we've seen multitudes of evidence point to the contrary.
Yep.
Or look at recent updates to Star Citizen that include sandbox locations that generally are easier to handle in groups. This leads to assumptions that organizations, streamers, and groups of friends are all CIG cares about, even though we've seen multitudes of evidence pointing to the contrary, that solo gameplay is actually a pretty big focus for this game. People genuinely believe that Star Citizen is being designed to be a PvP game first at the moment. These arguments are playing out in the very comments right here. And while historically games like these have struggled with that kind of stuff, the design intent still does tell a different story. Take a look at the roadmap and you'll
notice that SpaceTomato very smartly chose the words design intent. The design intent long term is that systems will have security that will be lawful and lawless and it's just not in yet. And reaction times from NPCs aren't where they need to be because server tech isn't where it needs to be. Lag, latency, and NPC issues can't give an appropriate, accountable response yet. This seems to be the theme tonight. Apologies for the people who are live right now. We have literally had the same talk all night, and I appreciate you guys for being here and having the endurance and the longevity and the stability to be here. Let's hear it for the audience tonight. Yes, because they've heard this all night tonight. I can't. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. We've got some hardcore viewers that have listened to the same thing literally 4 times. And this just is a testament to how much noise there is out there where people just instantly go out to the PvE versus PvP battles. And it's, why wouldn't they though, right? Because that's how they get paid. PvE, PvP, PvE, PvP. Money, 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 money. Everybody wants to talk about it because it's so goddamn polarizing. And it's like, wait a second, everybody, take a step back. See, this is why this channel don't get a ton of views here, because I'm trying to take a step back and look at the macro, be the rational adult in the room, and tell everybody, hey, in the terms of, and I'm glad SpaceTomato is too, take a step back, look at the big picture, and realize where we're at in our journey. Okay? Properly designed game design with system security, lawful and lawless, and appropriate NPC responses will be a solution. So the whole PvP, PvE argument, it's irrelevant. If the devs design this in a manner where it's balanced and appropriately labeled, lawful-based systems will have appropriate responses with NPCs and they will pwn your ass. Lawless-based systems will, anything goes. As long as we are going to go towards it, which is what is planned here, the intent, the design intent, as SpaceTomato has stated, which is a rational adult take and why I love watching SpaceTomato, then we will be okay. But saying that is not sexy. Saying that we will be okay. Oh, no, people tune out. They want to fight. They want to polarize. They want to pick a camp. They want to pick a PvP. They want to pick a PvE. It's mind-boggling to me how humans are wired. It's disturbing, actually.
You'll see a smattering of features that aim to please various players. The cargo refactor, aimed at non-violent industrial players, and honestly the entire game. Contested zones, a closed-off hotspot for FPS combat enthusiasts. A huge ground vehicle mining update to entice small-scale industrial players more, along with a new ground exosuit for mining. Scripts for solo players, a starter ship for mining. We've seen more animal control missions for those looking to get a taste of searching gameplay. Maintenance missions for
which is totally borked. I don't like the way that the animals spawn, and I hate the radar not working the way that it needs to. It's just when you're looking all around for like fauna that just magically pops up out of anywhere. They need to redesign the whole concept for finding fauna and wildlife. I think I don't like it. It should be some type of like infrared feature or some type of new game mechanic that it currently is. Using a radar to find animals, I don't know, man. Like the way that it's designed right now, I don't like it.
Solo civilian-focused gameplay at outposts. They really do need to get those into Stanton and not just...
They kind of spawn in the same way that ore does when you're mining, Hugh, and they come in clusters. And it's so sporadic. It feels disjointed. You know what I'm saying, Hugh? And frankly, so does the mining experience a little bit too. When you're scanning for rocks, the whole that will get flushed out. I feel like I feel like radar and I feel like scanning isn't anywhere where it's going to be. I feel like that's going to be towards the back half, and they're going to polish the shit out of that because scanning needs to be looked into. Exploration, scanning, bookmarks or beacons, the use of beacons again and bringing beacons back in an upgraded way. These types of game elements need to definitely be put on a pedestal. It's overdue. We definitely need new scanning features, new radar, the whole thing needs an update for people with terrapins or people with ships that are focused on scanning. And the whole thing kind of needs an uplift and an upgrade.
Pyro. And there's a multitude of space missions for the more PvE-focused ship combat players. On the other hand, in that same
Rev says there is no infrared or night vision in SC. It wasn't invented yet. There's like a night vision. It's not the best, but yeah, Rev, this is what we do on this channel. We talk about things that aren't in the game and then they show up in the game. And this is the way that we've done things since the very beginning of this channel. And this is why I am called the what?
I'm in a fountain.
Yes. This was something that started many, many moons ago where I come up with these great ideas and then somehow they find their way into the game. And this is why I'm so very vocal. I'm a seasoned Star Citizen. And even at this stage, because the whole game is saturated with Star Citizen content creators, I will come in here if I have no viewers talking about what it is that I want to see. And it's not feature creep. It's making the game better. And people... You know, at the very beginning of this, when I started talking about dynamic weather and how I want to see that, people said I was fucking crazy. It wasn't even one of the goals. And they thought I was nuts. Quit theory crafting, quit theory crafting. And I'm like, dudes, it's not feature creep. It's making the game better. Thank you, Gator. Thank you. Thank you very much, Gator.
Time, we've seen several new, pretty heavily marketed new locations that draw a lot of attention to more group-focused and combat-heavy gameplay. But that on its own isn't a bad thing. Star Citizen 4.2 will release highlighting a unique problem I covered a couple videos ago. The features cannot adequately support the content being released. A location like the THUR facilities would offer more safety to curious explorers and salvagers if we had actual security and a reputation system. The ADP facilities should benefit from their remote and dangerous location as well as gang reputation to some extent, becoming less of an overcrowded hotspot like it is right now. And all of this gameplay would benefit from players being able to more easily and intuitively scan and understand what players are all about. I've been very open about my shifted expectations from CIG, with the full-on marketing of this game as an early access playable now experience, and the huge milestone of server meshing past that was holding back a lot of advancement in the game. I think they need to really support the experience that they're trying to sell people now. And while this year they've chosen to focus more on content and stability over the delivery of features,
yes and no, because really, I need more transparency when it comes to stability. The Benoit Bessinger was talking about at the very beginning of the year. I need more from Benoit. I need more from Cloud Imperium devs that are involved on the server tech team. We need more discussion about this. It's kind of when it was mentioned at the very beginning of the year, and then nothing but crickets now, man. Like, I mean, like, what happened? Do you guys remember how excited I was when that came out? It was like a Star Citizen Live. Do you remember, like, I was jumping up in my seat? I'm sure it's somewhere back was it an old Inside Star Citizen, or was it like, I literally was beside myself. I was like, oh, thank God. Like, thank you, God. We see the light. We're talking about stability here. And then, like, whoosh, nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. And it seriously upsets me. That upsets me. It's like radio darkness, man. Like, nothing after has happened. And like, what happened? We started off with a bang, man. And now, what happened? What's going on?
Delaying much needed advancements, we still gotta keep those features in mind. Star Citizen is far from complete, but it's well past the point that they can control how the public is gonna perceive it. So they gotta meet the cause. This was the whole point of the Star Citizen 1.0 panel, to show that they're not updating this game for a specific playstyle, that they have an end goal that they are working towards, and they're finally comfortable being held to it, as ambiguous as it still kind of is. And that should be kept in mind when we are 2 weeks out from the next major update that makes Star Citizen look like it's going to be Tarkov, or DayZ, or Rust, or Star Fox Adventure, or any other game in space. Each update is just spotlighting one specific part of the game. Because at the end of the day, even if they are aiming for a more niche experience, they do have to balance out the game and keep players interested in all the different parts of this game so they can keep making money. Unfortunately, as you can imagine though, it's hard to keep realistic about all this stuff, mainly because of communication.
Stunner's giving it a next.
So many of the problems that phase any game, especially one in development, tend to stem from communication. Unreal expectations, improper messaging regarding major changes, no notification on directions changed, hesitation to share major setbacks. The list goes on. Star Citizen exemplifies this, and it's not entirely their fault. Gamers can be pretty intense. I know, I'm one. We used to shut down city blocks for game releases and get hyped about the...
Have you guys ever heard that saying that there's too many chiefs and not enough Indians? I think it's opposite for Cloud Imperium. I think there's too many Indians and not enough chiefs. I literally think that we need somebody that actually sits down and figures out a way to clearly and concisely communicate what is happening inside in terms of the dev and have it on a video. Doesn't have to be long. Make it short. But like they're cutting back this year. You see what I'm saying? They cut back. They're cut back the LA studios no longer. They were cutting back a couple positions. They're kind of leaning up a little bit. They're cutting the amount of expenses out, and they've also staggered the Inside Star Citizen lives, and the Inside Star Citizens and the Star Citizen lives. So they're kind of contracting back a little bit. And you know what? It comes down to this. They're bringing out the content for us, and I like that. But like, I don't like this step back in terms of like the transparency. I think long term, that's not a good thing. I think they need to continually put out information on what is going on with the business. How could that not be important? It's what's got them this far. Like them being transparent weekly, sometimes even more. Like when we first started the journey, oh my God, it was like so many updates every single week. I mean, you guys that are oldest remember that shit. A cut back in the amount of content, okay, I just think long term, not necessarily the best thing to do. They got the 800-900 million that they're at right now by being transparent and putting information out there. Even if it wasn't information that people liked, or even if it wasn't the information that we liked, them kind of cutting back a little bit, I think, I don't know. I don't think that's a smart move, really. Diva says, well, DG, when they were transparent, people also got mad at them for being too transparent. Well, yes, Diva, you're right. And you know what? I say this, and this might sound a little hardcore, but that's when you put on the big boy pants. You're a company, you're a corporation, you take it, and you just fucking keep doing it. Like, you got to take the slings. Could you imagine if I got upset and I said, oh, you know, people are mean to me on the internet, so I'm just not going to put as much streams out. You know what I mean, Diva? Do you know how many negative comments oh my God. The amount of negative comments I get a week are ridiculous. I mean, I get and really negative, toxic comments. Could you imagine if like I let that affect me? Some of them do, honestly, some of them do. But like, I got to stay consistent. This is what I do. I like to do it. I'm passionate about it. Could you imagine if I was just like, oh, you know what, guys? I think I'm just going to do one stream because I can't handle the negative shit. You see what I'm saying, Diva? Like, you got to put on the big boy pants and the big girl pants, and you got to deal with the shit. And you got to do what it is that you like to do. You got to be passionate about it. And you got to do it. So like, to me, when I see this type of, is that Johnny Somali? It's just sorry. Let's keep going.
The latest game news once a week, crowding around one of many gaming magazines. All that energy is getting trapped and has to be channeled somewhere else now. And generally, it's online, in spaces that we share with the very people who are making the games. This proximity makes communication tricky, and the list of studios and publishers that have mastered it is pretty short. CIG has learned the hard way that the more you share, the more likely a communication problem will pop up. But after a decade of sharing, you can't really close that lid.
Agree. That's exactly. See, he said it. SpaceTomato said it better than Space Potato did. Let's hear it for SpaceTomato. Man, summed it up. It's also scripted. In my defense, it's also scripted. He's reading it right now. He wrote it. This is all live. This is all coming from my very large space potato head. Okay.
They've certainly tried. They've stopped with long-term roadmap outlooks, which leaves players kind of unsure of the short to medium-term plans CIG has for the game. Many are playing as their main. They've cut down on their developer interviews, avoiding more questions about the gameplay that may need to change in the foreseeable future, and allowing the devs to stay busy with their work rather than answering backer questions. They've stopped highlighting future feature development in Inside Star Citizen, mainly sticking to previews on new ships and the occasional look at current ongoing content. They've cancelled in-person CitizenCon this year, likely to focus more on the game development and save some money. And they've even gone so far as to clarify that old information can't necessarily be relied on for new game features. Depending on whether things change again at the end of this year of playability, the company's pretty much changed the entire communication structure of itself. Still, this information vacuum doesn't change the fact that everyone knows what the game is kind of supposed to be. A multiplayer space game with multitudes of ways to earn the ships, items, and access to locations that you desire through a system of choices and consequences all linked to different professions. Always, of course, at the risk of some danger in an ongoing collapse of human civilization. It's a lot to take in, and it's pretty ambiguous, but whether you're a miner, a salvager, FPS player, bounty hunter, dropship pilot, medic, crafter, investigator, or anything.
I'm telling you, he's got great B footage. I love the way Space Potato actually edits his footage. It's really good. And the music he uses, it keeps you upbeat. It keeps you like actually in it.
Else, you're meant to have a clear progression that builds off your profession and lets you live your way through space. With all these expectations set, it's hard for players to see ships release that seemingly double down on combat,
What's up, Lost
which already
Soul? How you
exists
doing, buddy?
plentifully,
Welcome home, man.
or cater to a specific playstyle that you just have no interest in. Despite there being additions to mining made a couple updates ago,
Space Potato?
there
Oh,
have
shit,
been none
it's thunder.
since. And no dev or update has said anything about mining going forward otherwise. So how do the miners know that they will still see improvements in the gameplay that they want to carry them to endgame? For
It's
some,
live, it's
the
live.
answers lie in what was previously said, whether in Star Citizen Live,
It's the beauty of
at
being live.
CitizenCon, or in some design documents. But for most players, it's easier to just assume that's it. Suppose multiple updates come about bringing in activities that may require gunplay. In that case, it's easier to assume we'll never see a location that doesn't encourage gunplay.
Listen, tomato, potato. Isn't that how it goes? Tomato, potato.
Than it is to have faith that CIG knows those locations are also necessary. And many players find themselves just thinking that Star Citizen's in a polishing kind of phase, and for the most part the game will be finished over the next year. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. But this is
That
a
sounds good,
difficult
fingers.
situation
Put a little onions in
CIG
that,
has put
maybe some green
themselves in.
peppers.
And it seems to come from a multitude of slightly related decisions over the course of the years. From the delays of more intensive game systems
I'm having a
to
good
the
time,
removal
Lost Soul.
of the long-term roadmap to a need to
Yeah.
focus on playability in 2025. But everybody should keep in mind, things can change pretty drastically in just a year. We didn't have the cargo refactor at this point last year. No freight elevators, no persistent hangars, no inventory storage at ground locations. Yeah, these things are still a bit broken, but I think it's prudent to consider the whole of Star Citizen can change pretty drastically given how many
So on point. Yes, there's still issues, but look at all the changes. Okay, not all of them, just a handful, a certain few. We're giving you negative narratives and telling you that there was no progress. They were out there. Star Citizen content creators were telling you no work was being done simply because they didn't see it anywhere. And then, boom! And what your pal DG360 keep telling you? Hang in there. It's okay. Work's being done. You're going to see it soon. I know the pun is not lost on me, but it happened, right? I just, boom. And look at how different it is within 2 years. Listen, I know 2 years sounds like a long time, but if you've been in this project, it was, I got to tell you something. In the past 2 years, this is a completely different game. Would you guys agree? Put a 1 if you guys agree with me. Within the last 2 years, Star Citizen is is a really much better, different experience to me than it ever was prior to 2 years ago. I would say 2 years ago, it was the same for a long time with obviously planetary landing and all these, you got the game mechanics and shit that have mining and, refining all these things that they kind of hit. But like in terms of like persistent hangars and actually having loops that work, right? Crazy different than it used to be. And I'm glad I see a lot of ones. And you know what? I'm having a lot of fun. Fingers are saying since 3.18. Yeah. Yes, Fingers. I'm glad I'm seeing a lot of ones. It's a lot of fun. If you can invest hours of gameplay time within a week, after you're done, you're hooked. Like, the learning curve is large, and that's a turnoff for some people. I like my games to be difficult, right? I like steep learning curves. And then when you learn it, holy shit, what a great experience I'm having. It's just, it is so much fun. There is a lot to do. And people that say that there is not a lot to do, I don't think play the game.
Features still need to be implemented.
Org tools would be a complete game changer, and I just don't know why we can't get that going. Right, Orson? You're so dead on. So dead on.
And the development really doesn't depend on just the next update.
Yeah, it was nearly unplayable 2 years ago with 30Ks happening at least 2 or 3 or 4 times in a gaming experience. Hugh Freeze is dead on. I can't remember the last time I had a 30K. Yeah, I can. But they don't happen as much.
All of the changes I've mentioned today that change the way players perceive this game are true. And it's harder than ever to know how exactly different game elements will play going forward with this kind of pullback of communication. And that ain't fun. But we can definitely see how the game is only being built one update at a time, and to focus on one aspect at one point doesn't negate other forms of gameplay.
Again, he's dead on. The thing is the game has matured. They do have nearly $900 million now of revenue they've brought in. I still think this is a step in the wrong direction. They should be just as transparent as they ever were, and I think this shows to me like a step back, and I get worried long term it's going to have a negative effect, but we'll see. Revenues this year, by the way, where's my let me get the revenue chart so you can see where we're at. I showed this at the beginning of the Star Citizen After Dark.
Because not only is game development itself pretty uneasy and layered, I believe Star Citizen specifically is being built based on regular calls of how much dev power can be afforded to be pulled from Squadron 42. That means every quarter, they may be shifting around bodies to try and bring Star Citizen players good entertainment while still staying on schedule with Squadron 42's release.
It's always been a balancing act. It's been a balancing act since the very beginning. Check out these revenue numbers here. We talked about this at the very beginning of the stream here tonight. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, definitely like and share this. And go down in the description, go to SpaceTomato's channel, go subscribe, awesome dude. But go look at this for a moment. This is, we're at 2025 revenues after June. That blue bar right there, that teal colored baby blue bar is at $70 million at the very end of June. And look at all the other teal bars. The other teal bars at 55 million. We're $15 million ahead of where we were in the prior 2 years. We're about $10 million ahead of where we were at in 2022. And I think we're going to go gangbusters throughout the end of the year. I said this before, and I apologize for repeating myself, but I was wrong. In 2024, I said that they're probably going to have a contraction year in revenue. And it looks so far to be like I was wrong in that prediction. It looks like they're going gangbusters and they're going to have a record-breaking revenue year. And man, I got to say this. I think it is a mistake stepping back in terms of being, in terms of the content. I don't like that direction. I don't think it's smart. To me, it looks like a bad move to do that, but okay.
That limited dev count can explain things like engineering, meant to release in 4.0, and immediately expand non-gameplay related gameplay across outpost maintenance missions, component tuning, and general ship upkeep, Engineering was delayed due to the focus on jump point technology, transitioning to different star systems, and ongoing flight model development in 2024 that took precedence. Engineering is still not here, but that doesn't mean that it won't be a big part of the game when it does arrive. Or let's look at this from a different angle. The flashy bits of content that CIG keeps advertising to players is giving the impression that guns are always necessary. Between the Hathor locations and the new ASD facilities in Pyro, there's a lot of opportunity for danger. But in that time, we've also seen mining updates.
And the irony is they have to do that. It's the flash in the pan to bring people in. A lot of work, no disrespect against Elliot and the level designers that do this type of work. I think they did a bang-up job on both Hathor and Stormbreaker. They need to bring in more people. They need to bring in more revenue. And I can guarantee you the reasons why we're seeing a spike in revenue in this year is because they're actually putting in these global dynamic events in. And they're doing it. And they better be careful because then you get a lot of PvEers that come in and they want the danger. The irony is that the people that are coming in, primarily, generally speaking, the population is like a PvE kind of gamer. They come in and then they're like, oh shit. They come in because it looks dangerous. And then they're like, hey, you know, we don't want the danger. Now, there's fair criticism in that because, you know, you've got farming, but we talked about this tonight ad nauseum, where lawful-based systems need to have appropriate NPC responses and put action against people that are PvPing simply to farm or raid the area, and lawless-based systems, anything goes. So in this example, Hathor would be a lawful-based stand system where if somebody were PvPing in it, boom, NPC reaction time hits, and you're safe. And in a lawless-based system, anything goes, as we're talking with Stormbreaker here. So, you know, we've talked about this ad nauseum. In order for there to be an appropriate NPC response, it directly hinges upon server tech, which is the most important feature or most important hurdle that they get over.
Starter mining ship, a more accessible salvage ship, the Atlas Geo, maintenance missions, collection missions, and at least an attempt to get people into
And like Orson says, the issue is you're getting all the PvEers coming in for these events, and then when they go to these events, then they're getting shot down, right? Yes, because there's not the appropriate response. Now, again, Hathor should have appropriate response, and Pyro, Stormbreaker, anything goes.
The supply or die event in non-combative ways. And coming up in 4.2.1, we have a new cargo-focused event that leaves a lot of room for combat, exploration, or purely cargo-focused gameplay. And yes, by exploration, I do just mean finding large deposits of different resources for other people to turn in. This whole event is something I'll be covering this week, but it does look like it's going to be something people really enjoy. And even the PvP focus that seems to dominate these more heavily marketed sandbox locations is counteracted by the narrative PvE missions that are also being added throughout these updates. It's not solving the main problem, but I think these things do show a broad choice of gameplay going forward. Going back to this,
he's right too. There is a broad choice of gameplay in the game currently in its format. There are plenty of things to do that are PvE oriented and solo oriented. Well, you will be left alone primarily and not have to worry about it. There's a lot in the game already. It just so happens that the flashiest parts that people join up for are the areas that are the most dangerous, right? But in terms of like the things that they're able to do in this game, God, you could go almost forever mining and not be bothered. You could go almost forever salvaging and not be bothered and deal with it. I've done both activities. Occasionally, yeah, I got to worry. But like for the most part, I'd say a good 70%, 75% of the time, I can get, you know, do something without being bothered by anybody. And then if I'm bothered, I know what to do to get out. Because I'm not in a ship to handle the situation, so I get out. Unfortunately, I really want to fight them, but I'm not in the correct ship.
This misunderstanding of what Star Citizen is being built to be, it's also good to keep in mind what's easiest to build and implement. Shooting guns is undoubtedly the easiest thing to do in Star Citizen, feature-wise. Originally coming from CryEngine, that's no surprise. And with focus on Squadron 42, those systems are what need to be the most polished. There's very little need for an in-depth medical system, a full reputation system, fuel siphoning, or data collection in Squadron 42. These things either don't need to happen or will be canned in planned segments of that game. And that game is their main focus right now. So when we consider the reasons for the state of things, a lack of medium-term roadmap, less Q&As and communication on feature development, and a lack of abundant resources to spread between both Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, it makes sense that CIG is going to take advantage of higher rewarded content, aka combat that doesn't take much effort, and the community is simply not going to know what the heck is coming next. But
here's what I want to see next. Squadron 42 releases in 2026. Crossing my fingers for that, trying not to jinx it. It comes out, gangbuster sales. They make tons and tons of extra dough. Although I have stated before, a lot of people already have Squadron 42, but if they open up the market to consoles, which I think they're going to do, I know that's controversial, but I think that they actually will. They're going to get an influx of cash. And I think from what I'm seeing from Squadron 42, I think it will be a gangbuster title. I think a lot of people will get it. That's speculation. But if it is successful, here's what I want to see next. And I don't think I've ever talked about this. I would like to see, after a successful Squadron 42, I want to see teams that are responsible for Squadron 42 being pushed over to the PU. And for a year, have a lull to the next chapter of Squadron 42. Now, whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know. But I would highly advise Chris and the other staff there that have head positions, that they take Squadron 42 members, they slide them to the PU, and they get busy on the PU. And I think that the reason why we've been seeing development this way for so long is because they've always had Squadron 42 and the PU. Imagine Squadron 42 first chapter comes out, hugely successful, pull in that dough, boom, slide everybody over into the PU work. Holy shit. It's going to be like turbo thruster, man. That's what I'd like to see. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. I think that would be a smart move. I think that would be a very smart move. And people are going to be floored at what happens at that point. Because then all the things that you needed to see that kind of feel sloppy in the PU, it's going to be a whole new day. It's going to be a whole new era. And we can get those people that actually focus on the PU for a year or two. I think we'll get more production out of it if managed correctly. And then get to a point where the PU gets to the stability that we're looking for and finish the game loops and polish things up. And then we can talk about taking teams and sliding some people back over to the second chapter, right? With a much more finished, polished PU. That's what I would say that's how it's going to go. I would say that's how it's going to go.
In 2023, we got PES. Since then, we've seen actual cargo box storage, long-term persistence of player ships, better functionality with tractor beams, salvage gameplay on persistent shipwrecks, freight elevators, more loot and locations, more locations, a new star system, general maintenance missions coming into the game, and physicalized components. Before that, we really didn't see any development in the industrial sector of the game beyond mining. Only recently the company has gotten the game to a state where other forms of gameplay feel like they matter. And without an economy in crafting, that feeling still persists quite a bit. I think it's good to keep in mind that just because the gameplay you like isn't showing up in the flashy trailers for each update, it doesn't mean the features that will support it eventually aren't being worked on. On that note, you should
Yes, sir. You're not gonna hate me.
Thank God someone else is saying it. Thank God someone else is saying it. Because you would never know otherwise unless you're watching him or myself. Because other people focus on the next wrong thing all the time, and they just to the point where you think that there's nothing else happening. And this is why I worry that maybe Cloud Imperium went a little bit radio silent. Maybe Diva's right. Maybe Diva's absolutely right. Like they're like, you know what? Fuck this bullshit. We're tired of it. But see, then they scaled back. They scaled back because of the feedback, because of what they were getting on the content creation side of things, where 90% of the Star Citizen content creators weren't really focusing on the actual work being done, but rather like the next problem. And, there's things to be said for that, obviously, as long as it's handled constructively. But you know, if you completely just focus on, I think sometimes non-issues, because a lot of the content comes out heavily manipulated to monetize your eyeballs. If you see that, and 9 out of 10 Star Citizen videos are pushing that narrative, I'm hoping Cloud Imperium didn't take it to heart and said F this and step back and just said enough of this. And Diva might be right. Diva might be right. They did it. Personally, to me, that's unprofessional. Like they're a company. They should take the slings and the bows and the arrows and the stones, and they should just deal with it and move on, just like anybody else does. But yeah.
Come check out the monthly report readings that we do live on this channel, and I post over on SpaceTomato 2 every month. Yeah, they're giving good information over there, but I understand the wait sucks, and everybody is free to feel how they feel about it. Just keep in mind your gameplay of choice is likely still in the cards. If you're new to Star Citizen, I always suggest...
All right, going over there, my brother, SpaceTomato. Why am I not? I literally pushed subscribe the other week, and there we go. And we're gonna like that. Let me push this link over to my live audience. This guy's got some really adult takes. Dig it. He knows what he's talking about. And there you go. Pinned it there for Daft, Supermod Daft. Put that in our live chat. Go to SpaceTomato. Go subscribe to him. Yeah. Good stuff. Adult takes, yeah. Some of the shit I say, right, Rev? Adult takes. What? Oh my God. I'm scaring people, man. I'm scaring people. What do we got here? We got a clip. Space Potato what, says Mad Style? Hold on a second. Let's see.
But whether you're a miner, a South...
Hold on. Mad Style's got a clip me. Let's see what's going on here. Holy shit, dudes. You know, I'm streaming here for what, like 2.5 hours? So, you know, there's going to be some mistakes. You know what I mean? I just can't help that. Adult takes. What the fuck am I saying?
But whether you're a miner, a salvager, FPS player, bounty hunter, dropship pilot, medic, crafter, investigator, or anything...
I'm telling you, he's got great B footage. I love the way Space Potato actually edits his footage. I'm live, everybody. I'm live. You know, like people, you guys get that. You guys get that. You know, when people watch these highlights, they don't get, I don't know how they don't get it. It's obviously a live show, but you know, when you're doing this, there's a large portion of the audience. They're like, whoa, you know, what is he talking about? Space Potato. Guy can't even say his name right. And it's like, right. It's like, it's live, guys. It's live.